Okay, now we're going to work on our 3 transformations in GeoGebra for our last construction. So go ahead and open up your GeoGebra program. We've worked a little bit with GeoGebra, so hopefully you know how to get around a little bit here. We are going to work on the slide or the translation, a rotation, and a reflection. So we're going to first start with this slide. So let me use my arrow here, the leftmost button, and I'm going to drag that text over here so you can see which one I'm working on. Now notice my triangle has points A, B, and C. I've shown up here under options, see where it says algebra description? I'm going to turn that, I'll click on that to under view algebra. If I turn that off, you don't see that leftmost pane. We want to make sure that you can see that, because you can see point A, B, and C over here, and you can see its coordinates. So see how it says -5, 5? That's the coordinate of point A on the triangle. -5 is the x value, 5 is the y value. And we're going to translate each of these points so that it's x plus 3, or you add 3 to the x value, or 3 to that -5, and then subtract 5 from the y value on each point. And we're going to get a new A, a B, a C. So first thing we need, in order to slide the triangle, I need to show it, I need to kind of build the slide. And we're going to use something called a vector to show the direction and the distance I want to slide. So third button in from the left, go down to vector and click on that. Now I want this vector, I'm going to start at point B. I want this to go plus 3 to the x. So if I add 3 to the x, it's going to slide my button forward 3, my point B forward 3, and if I subtract 5 from the y, it's going to go down 5 along the y. So my vector that shows plus 3 minus 5 is right here now on the screen, BE. That would be the slide of going forward 3 and down 5. Now I want to slide this whole triangle along that vector. So looking at your buttons across the top, go to the fourth one in from the right. Drop that down, and there's your translate an object, which we're going to do the triangle, by the vector. Now it says if I click on that or hover over that button, it says select the object and then select the vector. So select the triangle. Oh, I lost my vector there. Hold on, let me get that back in here. Okay. So select the triangle and then select that vector. There we go. And then there's my new triangle. Notice how each of these points have slid forward 3 units and down 5. And that's why I have the grid on, because then it's very easy to see 3 units along the grid, forward and then down 5 gives you a new point. And notice my new points are A prime, B prime, and C prime, because it's a new ABC triangle. Now let's look over here at our points. See, point A was -5, 5. Well, I added 3 to the x, and now the new coordinates of A prime are -2, 0. And that's what I get when I add 3 to the x and subtract 5 from the y. And you can see the same holds true for the B coordinates. If I add 3 to the x and subtract 5 from the y, those are my B coordinates. And the same for the C. So it'll also show you those coordinates mathematically that did work out. So there's your slide. So let me take that, grab my arrow, grab my text, and put it right next to that triangle so everyone can see that was my slide. Now let's move on to the rotation. I'm going to take my same triangle, ABC, and I'm going to rotate this around the origin. Now notice the origin is at 0, 0, and I have put point D there on your file. So you already have that point on here. And we're going to rotate 180 degrees. So I have everything in place that I need. Let's go back 4 buttons in from the right, drop that down, rotate an object around a point by an angle. It's the 4th button down. So if I hover over that, it says select the object or your triangle and then choose that point D, the origin, and then it's going to ask you for the angle. Now sometimes it takes a couple tries. Sometimes I do it and I lose my selection. So be patient with it. Let me get that polygon triangle. There, now I have the triangle. Now I have my point. Nope, there you go. I had to really click on that point D, and up comes the box that asked for the angle. And then we said we wanted 180 degrees, so I put in the 180 in where the degrees are. Doesn't matter if I go counterclockwise or clockwise, meaning to the right or to the left. 180 degrees is going to put me halfway around the clock either way. So I click OK. Maybe I lost my... Okay, let me try that again. Like I said, the one thing I have noticed with the translations is sometimes it seems like you do everything right, and you still don't quite get what you're looking for there. There we go. Let me try one more time. There it is. So don't ask me. I did the exact same thing twice. It finally made sure I selected it correctly. I will tell you, when you're selecting a triangle, if you click on the box that tells you what you have, so here it says triangle poly, if you click on that box, it selects things a little bit better. Alright, so there's my rotation. Notice that its A prime has a double prime on it. Actually, no, it went A prime. Can't really see that A prime, can you? Hold on, let me move it so you can see the A. Now it's called A1 and with a prime to show you that it's a different point A. Now let me go ahead and move that rotation down there to show that that was my rotation, and we're ready to move on to reflection. Looking at our coordinates for our rotation, notice that basically, let's look at A, or my original triangle was -5, 5. Look at the point on my new triangle after the rotation, A1 prime. It just changed the sign on the X and the Y. And it did that for both the B, that was true, and it was also true for the C. So we've talked about that in class a little bit, about what happens to the coordinates when you rotate, slide, and last, reflect. So 4th button in, we'll drop that down again. We can reflect an object across a line. And we're going to reflect this across the y-axis. So hover over that button, it says select the object and then the line to reflect that you want to reflect across. So I'm going to select click on the button, reflect, get that triangle, and then I'm going to click on the y-axis. Didn't get it that time. Let me try again. Being stubborn here for us. Okay, let me try one more time. Let's get the triangle here that we want to reflect. Okay, let's try one more time and then I have another idea. There we go. Clicked on the y-axis and there's our reflection on the other side of the y-axis. So notice that each point, if I go directly through that y-axis to the other side, it'll be the same number of units on the other side. So see how A is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units away from my y-axis? Look on the other side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. On the other sides where I'll find A2 prime. Okay, and that's the same for each of those points, so there's my reflection. So let me go ahead and move my label to my reflection. Now let's look at our coordinates for that. My original point, A, was negative 5, 5. Look at the coordinates for A prime, A2 prime. The only one that changed the sign was the x coordinate because it moved the x coordinate here on A from negative 5, so on the other side it's going to be at positive 5. But the y coordinate did not change. Same for C. The x coordinate went from negative 3 to the other side where x was positive 3. And then for B, from negative 6 to positive 6. So the only thing that changes in a reflection is the sign of one of those numbers. In this case it was the x coordinate because we reflected over the y. So those are your 3 translations. You now want to go to File, Save As, and you want to save your Geogebra Translation Constructions. And then make sure you put your name on it. So if we see the file, we know whose it is. And you're going to save it in, I'm going to save mine on my desktop, but somewhere where you can get to it. This is going to be a GeoGebra file. And there you go, you can save it that way. Another way that you can save it is you can go to File, Export. And you can save it as a graphic. And these are easier to upload to the Dropbox. So I'm going to save my graphic as well. So I'm going to make I think I'll make a GIF. Those are easy files. We'll do a picture. We're going to do a PNG, a picture. There we go. And I can save that. I'm going to call that, and put my name on it. Then I'll make a there we go. And I can save it as a picture file. And those are easy to upload to your Dropbox. Okay, and then that's the file that you'll put in along with your construction project for the last 15 points for these 5 constructions in GeoGebra.